Today we are going to be talking about Irreversible. The film opens with an old man and another man sitting on a bed in an apartment building. The old man talks about why he was in prison. He slept with his daughter. The camera then pans out the window to a gay club called the Rectum. The police have arrived and they are wheeling out a person that has obviously been assaulted. People seem to be yelling and swearing to the person on the stretcher. Then, there is a flashback to two men frantically searching in the Rectum for a man whose name is La Tania. It is unclear at this point who La Tania is. One of the men is the person who was being carried out of the club before. He asks around to the guys in the gay club, but nobody will answer. Instead, the people ask him to perform sexual acts on them. Eventually, the man searching for La Tania finds a man whom he thinks is La Tania, and the other man smashes his face in with a fire extinguisher, killing him. The film flashes back again to a street. Prostitutes are standing on corners. The two men who were in the club, whose names are revealed to be Pierre and Marcus, are asking to find a man named Guillermo Núñez. They are referred to a prostitute named Concha, who is actually a male transvestite, who knows where La Tania is. He refuses to tell and they beat him. Concha reveals that he is in the Rectum. The film flashes back to Pierre and Marcus leaving a party. They walk outside and the police are wheeling a body out of a tunnel. Marcus identifies the woman as his girlfriend, Alex. She has been brutally beaten and is unconscious. A man approaches Marcus and asks him if he wants revenge. Marcus replies yes. The film flashes back again to the party. Alex, Marcus, and Pierre socialize with friends. Marcus is drunk and under the influence of drugs. After Marcus acts inappropriately, Alex leaves. She tries to get a taxi, but is unable to. A prostitute recommends to take the underground walkways because they are safer. After she enters it, she sees La Tania threatening prostitute Concha with a knife. As he sees Alex, he lets her go and grabs Alex, afterwards raping and beating her brutally, in a long 9-minute, difficult-to-watch scene. During the act a person appears in the background and disappears. It's the same man who will tell Marcus where to find La Tania. Further back in time, Alex, Pierre, and Marcus walked in the subway to get to the party. It is revealed that Pierre was originally Alex's boyfriend, but Marcus is her new boyfriend. Pierre does not seem to have any problem with that. Flashing back to a couple hours before, Marcus and Alex are lying in their bed just after they woke up. Pierre calls and lets them know that his car has broke down and they have to take the subway instead. After Marcus leaves to buy some liquor, Alex finds out that she is pregnant with Marcus' child. In the final scene, in another flashback to a day earlier, Alex sits in a park reading a book while children play. She is completely unaware of her uneventful fate. The scene fades into flashing strobe lights and shows a final slide saying Le temps détruit tout, time destroys all things. And the movie ends, revealing that this entire film took place in reverse time. Bringing us to the end of the movie. In order to understand what really happened we have to go in reverse chronological order. To start, Marcus and Alex are currently in a relationship. At some time in the past, Alex and Pierre were in a relationship. While there might have been some tension in the past, the three are good friends now. Alex lives a happy life with Marcus. She enjoys spending time going to the park to read. This is the very last scene of the movie. We'll get back to this segment again in the end. Marcus too lives a happy life with Alex but indulges in alcohol and drugs and also other women. Alex knows about this and is not pleased as she is looking for something more serious. One morning, Alex dreams of a red tunnel that breaks into two pieces. This is an omen of bad things to come. No, she is no psychic, it could just be a coincidence. Alex is reading a book which also talks about how the future is already set, and the proof of this is prophetic dreams. Well, it's what she believes in too, and for her luck, she has a vision that could possibly talk about her own disastrous future. Even Marcus mentions he can't feel his arm, as it goes numb, but eventually he has his arm broken. Alex asks Marcus what if she was pregnant and Marcus replies that it might be a good thing. They get ready for a party that they plan to go to in the evening. Marcus leaves to get some wine and Alex takes a shower. After that, she takes that pregnancy test and realizes that it is positive. Alex smiles with joy and doesn't tell anyone yet. In the evening, they meet Pierre, and the three take the metro to the party. On the way, they have an elaborate conversation about how Pierre couldn't satisfy Alex sexually in the past, and that might have been the reason for Marcus to have stolen Alex. She doesn't want to talk about it, all she mentions is that Pierre is too intellectual about sex and is never participating during the moment. This sequence is to let us know about the past relationship between the three. This part also shows how Alex is dragged into a conversation unwillingly by the two people she's supposed to feel safe with. At the party, Marcus is high on drugs and so are other women. He begins to make out with them, but Pierre stops them, saying they would all regret it when they sobered up. He stops Marcus from cheating on Alex. Pierre asks Marcus to be with Alex. Marcus is pretty high and is clowning around and flirting with other girls in front of Alex. He also mentions how he's annoyed with Pierre for being a party pooper. Alex tries to get Pierre to relax and dances with him. Pierre still regrets not being with her, he still loves her. She goes upstairs to meet other friends. Marcus shows up. Alex gets annoyed that he's gotten stoned. As she leaves, Pierre meets her and offers to take her back home. She says she'll be fine and exits on her own. So we have a guy, Pierre, who loved, and loves, Alex but was unable to make love to her because he was too focused on giving her pleasure. Then we have Marcus, who Alex is now with, who is able to sexually satisfy her but is unfaithful. Alex goes outside and tries to cross the road to get a taxi. A woman asks her to take the underpass instead. She uses the tunnel but runs into Latania, the tapeworm. Let's quickly talk about who this guy is. He is a bisexual, gay pimp who indulges in all kinds of sadomasochistic sexual pleasures. He frequents at an underground club called Rectum that has gay men coming to be put through a series of Sam role play. In the tunnel, Latania is beating up Concha, a transsexual prostitute. As soon as he sees Alex, he lets Concha go and grabs Alex. They then holds her at knife point and sexually assaults her. All the while we hear him say things like, "Who pays for your clothes? Your guy? Does that excite you? Usually I don't like that. But this time, Latania is punishing Alex for his assumption of what she stands for. A particular class of the society that looks like her, beautiful, well-off, confident. A group he believes looks down on people like him, and treats him like the filth that he is. He doesn't stop there. Latania then kicks and punches Alex and bludgeons her face to the ground while screaming, "You think you can do anything because you're beautiful, huh?" He blames her beauty, he accuses her kind, for being the trash he is. Pierre and Marcus eventually step out of the party. Just as Marcus is blaming Pierre for ruining the party, he sees a bludgeoned Alex being taken away on a stretcher. Marcus breaks down into tears and gets to know that she was assaulted and now she is in a coma. After the cops take Pierre's and Marcus' contacts, two street thugs, Murad and Lade, offer to help. They say that Marcus looks wealthy, so if he paid them, they would help find the perpetrator as they know the area better than the cops do. They offer revenge. They say they have discovered a handbag with an it of a Guillermo Núñez, and that it is a start. Marcus hesitates for a bit but then agrees. As they go looking for Guillermo Núñez, we're shown that Marcus is still very high. They start interrogating all the streetwalkers for Guillermo. They eventually land upon Concha. Well, Concha, who Latania was beating up when Alex walked into the tunnel, is Guillermo Núñez. Marcus begins hitting her to get to the assaulter. She finally tells them that it was Latania and that they could find him at the Rectum, a gay bar. All the while Pierre is trying to stop Marcus from beating Concha and reminding him that Alex is in some hospital while they are on the streets looking for revenge. He wants to quit and go be with Alex. Marcus doesn't listen, he pushes on. In his high state, he was ready to gouge the eyes of someone innocent just so that he can avenge Alex. The entire transsexual streetwalker group comes running to save Concha. Marcus and Pierre run and enter a cab and escape. They get separated from Murad and Lade. Marcus tells the cab driver to take them to the Rectum. The cab driver is unaware and wants them to point it out on a map. Marcus is agitated and calls the driver slit-eyed. The driver is Asian and takes offense to this. He asks the two to get out of his cab. Marcus instead pulls the driver out, beats him up, pepper sprays his eyes, and drives away in the taxi. They go around asking for the gay bar. Pierre says he's had it and wants to drive away. Marcus bashes the windscreen and windows of the taxi and asks Pierre to follow him. They eventually find the bar. We are shown, in a visually headache-inducing red-colored sequence, the kind of Sam gay activities that happen inside the club. Marcus finally identifies one guy who seems to know Latania. Marcus beats that guy up till he points out who Latania is. There are two guys. Marcus tries to find out which one of them is the perpetrator he's looking for. Just then one of the two guys walks away. Though this is not Latania, Marcus assumes it is him and gets into a fist fight with him. Latania is the other guy who's just standing and watching. Marcus gets his hand broken and is about to be sexually assaulted by the other guy. Pierre shows up with a fire extinguisher and bashes the guy's face in. We are then shown Pierre bashing that face in repeatedly till it looks like baked blood orange that has imploded. Pierre, too, is consumed by revenge. All this while, Latania watches on with a certain joy on his face. He's admiring all the violence. All that effort and they get the wrong guy. Marcus is taken away on a stretcher. Pierre is arrested for murder. Murat and Lade are pissed off that they aren't getting paid. And if the police question Pierre, they know that they'll get pulled into this. They shout and curse at Marcus and Pierre. Just as this commotion is going on, in a nearby place, two guys are talking in a room. One of them is the character Butcher from Gaspar Noé's earlier film called Seul contre tout, I Stand Alone. Butcher explains how he spent time in jail because he had sex with his daughter and how time ruins everything. This is the first scene in the film. Comment below what you think. If you haven't already, like and subscribe.